Hello and good morning. My name is Roelof Lamberts at ServiceNow. Welcome to today's webinar hosted by Logicalis, SMC and ServiceNow. This webinar will be recorded and you will receive a link to the recorded version by the end of this week. If you have any questions during the webinar, please use the Q&A box. Your questions will be answered at the end of this session. For now, I would like to hand it over to Rick Burgering, Managing Consultant at Logicalis SMC, your host for today. Rick, it's all yours.
Thank you, Roelof, and good morning, everyone. Very happy that you could join us in this webinar. Today's webinar has got the interesting title, IT Service Management, Let's Get IT to the Next Level. And well, the reason we chose this title is because previously we held a webinar called IT Service Management, Let's Start with the Basics. So we're trying to continue our story where we left off when starting with the basics. Although anything and everything I'm going to share today with you is also in its own context. So I'm sure that even if you did not join us for that webinar, which is available to view via the known links, you will still have, I believe, a good and informing webinar. So the last time we started, we put ourselves on level 0 because we were starting with the basics, and those basics we chose from the arrow keys do not work, I have to click, the service management definition that I just put on screen. And that service management definition, just to create a little reminder to all of us, is a strategic approach to designing, delivering, managing and improving the way our services are used within an organization. And it's important to keep that in mind even if we are developing our services year after year, service after service, and while we increase our maturity, because it's the most important thing that we try to do. Design, deliver, manage and improve. Once again, I show you the picture that is very standard for all the ITIL processes, and one slide I've been showing previously as well is that extreme overflow of all the process and the terminology that is in that ITIL area, and that you can choose from to use in anything that you want to deploy in your service management area. So where do we go if we did the basics? Where do we go if we picked up the first steps to our ITIL or service management success? The first steps we took were delivering and managing. We started with the service operation and transition, building up a catalog, request management. We talked about workflow management, CMDB, configuration management, incident and change management, and yeah, like I said, let's see where we should go now. Because we discriminated the last time designing and improving, and now we're going to the next level sequence, which is including designing and improving. Here we see it, yeah, on the next level sequence, design strategy and the improve strategy. So this is where we are right now, where we've been picking up the basics, and now we want to increase our performance, we want to increase our possible service delivery and exceed the expectations of our user. So we follow the design and improve steps. What would ITIL lead to? Because we're now up and running, and let's improve it. And where is that next improvement? If we just read the ITIL story, we should now move into design, and we should move into strategy, and we should move to an improve cycle, focusing on business relations, on demand management, on our catalog, supplier management, and this is all very traditional. But if we put that all together, if we look at business relationship management, if we look at service portfolio, financial and demand management, there is a way to pick that all up and put that in one umbrella process. And it might not cover all the processes in the design area as stated in the ITIL setup, but if I put this on screen, there we go. If we focus on service lifecycle management, we cover a lot of it. And I'm going to show you that in a little bit. And the same goes for strategy. If we look at the catalog supplier, if we look at service levels, capacity and availability, there's a lot to control and a lot to evaluate. And maybe a lot of it is already happening because most of these areas are covered if we look at having a system or a service in operation. And what do we do to keep that, to keep it in operation and to keep it working properly, making it available, making it secure? Well, we can evaluate via governance, compliance and control. And these areas really help to improve your current service delivery. And the last step, improving via continual service improvement, cycles to improve and to keep on improving until the effort to improve is more than the benefit you get from it. We can measure that. We can see where we should improve. We can see how we can target that, how we can pick that up, and we can use customer satisfaction scores for that. So these three areas are the first three items I would like to take a look at if we look at the improvement possibilities in our service management landscape. So let's take a look at the service lifecycle management. The last session we had, starting with those basics, we took a look at the right side of this slide. We took a look at the tactical relationship management, and when this picture is loading you will understand why, because here the traditional process areas are. But I would like to connect it to the left side of this slide, which is the strategic relationship management, and it starts with demand. And to create an efficient service lifecycle, we have to start at demand. We have to start with the wishes, the technology, the possibilities, and also the need for change in any service-driven organization. And not only IT organization, it could be any kind of service actually. So if we build this up, we have a set of processes that bring us from demand towards that tactical relationship management. We have to work with resources, we have to work with PPM, which stands for Project Portfolio Management, managing actively what you are delivering in a continuing way. You have to use governance, which is also connecting to the GRC, the governance, risk and compliance part I was referring to. And we have to take a look at financials. SDLC and release are in fact possible, they might be necessary. SDLC stands for Software Development or Delivery Lifecycle, and release is the ordinary release management, but I don't want to put them in scope of this session at this moment. Now, here's the picture, the tactical relationship management. It's that old traditional cycle of incident. Something happens, something is broken, an error is found. Problem, what do we do? Can we fix it quick? Is it an error? Do we have to do some avoiding measures? Do we need to change something? Is it something we have to approach in a more robust kind of way? And we do that all via the CMDB. And those parts, those areas I have been talking about in the previous session, they should be in place before you can start with your service lifecycle management. Now if we add the arrows that just pop up, we can see that we run the business on the right side, but we can grow and transform the business and make it better, bringing it to the next level with the feedback loops on the left side. And we have strategic requests, enhancements and incidents, and they all come from that run the business area, or they could come from an ideation part, because those strategic requests come from a need of the business. Enhancements and incidents also come from a need of the business, and they will be transferred and transformed into demand that has to follow the cycle I've been just talking about. So what do we use here? It's project portfolio management, it's governance, financials. Those areas are the interesting part here, because with this we control how we deliver it, controlling our project portfolio, the governance, are we doing it the right way and are we still doing the right things, and how do we check that, and the financials, is the effort we put in enough for the benefit we get out of it. And with this, employing the service lifecycle management, we gain and we get traction to move our IT service management to the next level. What should we do to get this ready, and what should we do to be able to leverage the service lifecycle management in our IT organization? If you move into the next slide, I first want to bring you to a situation of today. Let's say that we are now in an area where service lifecycle management is not yet employed. We see that from all kinds of interactions, we get our questions. And all kinds of people will send us those questions, incidents, ideas, enhancement requests, maybe defects, and they will show up somewhere in the system. They could all be incidents, but are they then processed as a run area item, or should they be fed back to the demand area? If you did not put in place a process to do that, you will have a disconnect. On the right side, we also see projects, and those are normally disconnected from the input that you get in the incident level. And if I continue to build up this slide, you will see that the target area show up, a development area, a QA area, a production area where Ops is running the business. And this is what is actually the situation. There's a gap between the project and the delivery area, and there is a gap between the input and the real target areas, because there is no defined demand intake, there is no assessment and prioritization, and as a result of that, you see that there is low productivity and, well, at least not a lot of visibility, because you did not use a process to structure your demand. So how can we make sure that that works better? And I'm trying to give it to you in a very simplified way. If we use a ServiceNow setup for service lifecycle management, we should use a portal setup. We should use an area where people can drop their ideas. And it could be via that normal incident management, but we should at least be able to expand it to process those ideas and make sure that they can enter that project setup, that they can enter the enhancement or defect list and be fed to the right team to develop the right solution. If we continue to build this up, another possibility to add to that structured approach to onboard those questions is to create a demand workbench. Instead of creating direct tickets in a defect or enhancement process, demand can also be evaluated and assessed in the service lifecycle setup. And with this, with a scorecard or an assessment result, we can find out if there is real benefit or if there is risk, if the question or demand is huge or just very small. And with this, we can progress all those demand items to the right area. And the result of progressing it to the right area will mean that we have one system, one instance, targeting those 4 areas on screen: a development area, production area, maybe a project area or a QA area. And it's all done inside ServiceNow, instead of a separate project area, a separate development area, and a separate set of intake documents listing requirements, questions, and so on. And as a bonus, and that's not even on screen, you could maybe incorporate some test scenarios or the UAT test control here, because you connect it to any kind of question, story, or development task that you hold in ServiceNow. So that's a short bit about service lifecycle management. Now let's continue. Oh, there were the key benefits that still show up. And we align work to goals and strategy. There are real-time dashboards and faster time to value. Sorry, I had to mention that. Last animation showing up. Now, if we progress to the next area, the next possible process improvement area where we get our services to the next level, it's a process that is sometimes regarded as a bit dull and requires a lot of effort to get put in place. But believe me, if you find the possibility to invest at least a little bit in governance, risk and control, it's often referred to as GRC, it's very, very well worth the money. Because with the governance, risk and control, you get a framework that you can use to proactively evaluate what you want to comply to. And it's a simple framework, It's a simple setup actually, working with a framework, and that framework is a list of anything that you want to comply to. So the framework could be an ISO standard, it could be any kind of standard framework that you could maybe download and load, but you could also create it yourself. You could say that this is the framework I created because I'm in a very specific area and I have to comply to a different set of rules than the standard rules. Or you could add them to any existing standard. That framework needs evaluation and will lead to possible risks. If you don't adhere to all the compliance lines, then there are certain risks involved. And the risk could be that you lose money, that you lose credibility, or that you lose productivity. All kinds of risks can be identified not adhering or complying with the framework you define. When you know those risks, you can also define audits and tests and ways to find out if that risk is present, if that risk is there, and if it is properly avoided. So with those two, the control test and definition and the audits, you will see whether you are actually having, or maybe that risk is already present at your organization. So if you find out that that's the case, then the last step of this framework, this setup will be run, which is a test result and remediation step. Because if you find it, that would be the test result, and the remediation would be, okay, solve it, fix it, and make sure it doesn't happen. And when you did that, when you have run all your risk checks, your control tests, you have to start over. One big benefit of this is that instead of asking someone to come in and do that evaluation with a big bag of paper with all kinds of questions and the necessity to create immense reports that you have to share, you have done it yourself. And instead of having to send that information over, you can just say, okay, I've did this, I've used the framework you are using, I've identified the risks and did the tests, I've used those audits. The only thing you have to do is evaluate if we did the right thing and maybe add some steps or drop some steps because you are proactively doing that evaluation yourself. And with this, you avoid pitfalls, you avoid problems, and you basically activate your own continual improvement checks inside your own business framework. So that's for the GRC part. Then if you move to the third possibility that we put in scope based on the ITIL suggestions we got, the design, the strategy, and continual service improvement, that one of the things you could do to create continual service improvement, it's a very interesting one, is to test how satisfied your customers are. Know what you can improve based on what customers say. Because in the end, you provide your services to customers. They might be internal customers, they might even be external customers, and it might also be that you do not provide those services yourself, but that you get them from an external source. Telephony, networking, those could be perfect examples of that. But you need to know how you are doing according to the customer. You can meet all your SLAs, you can meet all the agreements you made, but if you are still not on time because your customer does not perceive it as an on-time delivery, then the agreements can be fine and all lights can be green, but it will not work, so to speak. So those two areas are split out in the sheet. There's vendor performance and surveys or assessments. And those are two types of the same kind of evaluation. Effectively what you want to know is how are we doing and how is service perceived? Because vendor performance is a questionnaire you can send to a user based on the fact that he or she got their service from an external source. And you can indicate that you are doing it to proactively get scores on that external source. You could also leave that out and indicate that you just want to find scores for the service you provide. And that's also something you do in the second step, sending out service or assessments that would be from an internal scope. And with this, you can score your service delivery, you can score your responsiveness, or even the way you do your delivery, and make sure that you know how your customer is perceiving what you deliver. Now, to make sure that we still keep, at least in the far back of our minds, the starting point of this step in the ITIL process, I put down the 7 traditional Kotter improvement steps, and I'm not sure if any of you has ever heard of the 7 steps or maybe connected them to Kotter, but it's interesting to just keep them in the back of your mind, because you want to make sure that you still use those to improve and to keep on improving, so that after step 7 you simply start back at the top of the list and create a continual improvement cycle. What are you measuring? What can you measure? And today we can measure more and more and more. You can gather data, and maybe you have that data already because you are working inside ServiceNow, and that's a big benefit, just getting the data in one system. You can process those data sets and the results of any surveys or assessments you send out, analyze it, because processing is definitely not the same as analyzing. Finding the proper perspective, seeing a breach in any trends that you found previously. Maybe there's some random response that you want to look at. And step 6 is maybe even the most important, together with 7. Make sure that you are transparent about what you found, and that you use that information and show that you're actually processing it to create benefit for your business. And if necessary, do indeed step 7, implement corrective action. Do you need to deliver faster? Do you need to deliver slower maybe? All those things are possible. And the business user is very understanding, I'm sure, as long as you explain what you're doing, why you are doing it. And also keep in mind, we are not aiming for a perfect 10. We are not aiming for a perfect 4 or 5. We are aiming for a 7 or 8, a good score, but not too high or not aiming too high to avoid specific investments that are not worth the benefit that you get from it. Now, those were the 3 areas that I could deduct from a design, a strategy, and a continual service improvement ITIL approach. What else can we do? There are a lot of things that you can still do if you want to move your IT to the next level. But those are simply not in scope, or not directly in scope, if we focus on the basic ITIL approaches that are there. Because there are other areas that are allowed, allow us to improve based on the fact that we use ServiceNow, for instance. And one of the things that you could invoke quickly and that could gain a lot of success and a lot of traction in your organization is automatization of any of the areas that you have in the existing process areas. And there are huge movements nowadays that say, okay, let's automate everything. And you could do that for your software delivery, you could do that for your software development. But an interesting area to evaluate is how are password resets handled. If 20% of all the tickets in your service desk are password resets or gaining access to tools that are locked for certain users, you could win big time if you can automate that, if you can bypass a service desk doing that manual or indirect, because sometimes tools are used but still information has to be shared with that specific tool. And the investment is not too big normally, and especially if you use a ServiceNow solution for that, if you want to automate that. So there is another option. Another thing you can do, use your reporting. Although I suggest that you should try to send out surveys and do assessments, a very well-known claim is that you cannot ask someone to score or rank you every day or every week or maybe every 2 weeks, because there would be an information flame overload from the organization. So let's start with the information we have. Use efficient reporting in the platform, use the data in the platform to find where you can improve. And the existing reporting possibilities in ServiceNow already help, and there is existing reporting that you don't even have to build that provides interesting information. But you could also think about using performance analytics, for instance, because in there, if you use that, you get data sets that allow you to do much more trending. You can evaluate more historic data in there. And with that, without even having to ask your users, you can see what is happening. What is the resolve rate of a ticket that has a lot of information versus a ticket that has only a few lines of information? Is there a difference? Normally, you can maybe expect that a user who enters less information also has to wait longer to be able to get an answer or get a result. So reporting can help you there, and that could be a quick win if you know where to look at. Then the last hint or the last possibility that I'm going to give you to improve, to create a quick win is share all your knowledge. Make sure that people can find what you can share with them. Share that information directly with your end user. Some people call that a shift left movement, so that people can help themselves with fixing the issue they face. If you find, for instance, the possibility to automate password resets, and you want to offer that to your end user, if they don't know how to do it, or if they don't know where to do it, then still people will create incidents or tickets asking, please reset my password. So sharing the knowledge on how to do that, sharing the knowledge on how to effectively solve very common issues or rather simple issues that need fixing is going to help to decrease the load of your service desk. So that's an interesting area to focus at. So those could be quick wins, and I'm sure that in the next webinar we'll target some of them, when we focus on portalizing or creating a portal for your instance, creating the proper area to communicate with end users. Knowledge sharing will definitely be addressed. Now, what should you look at in your organization if you look at possibilities to improve? And these are also 4 suggestions or 4 indications that you can use as inspiration to find possibilities to improve. Do users complain? And maybe some people are smiling behind their desk at this moment because users almost always complain, people say. But did you really ever take the time to listen to them and ask what the real issue is? Because my understanding and my firm belief, everything is bad, or things never work, or I always have problems, and it could be as simple as my laptop never works, and it could be karma, but I still believe that there is something that we can do as a service department or an IT department to help to make items work better. Because if you ask them, well, what do you do and what do you try, you will probably hear a lot more detail. So ask them, why do you complain? What is wrong, or what do you find wrong? What do you really find as a bad thing? What do your customers really say if you listen to them? And another interesting thing you might want to do is that each time that happens, each time that you find a complaint or people approach you or send you an email just ranting about how bad things are, do you really register them? Do you really treat your complaints as suggestions to improve? And do you try to find out where that is? Those can be very, very good hints and very good indications on what you can do. Another possibility is check if you are on time and complete with your service delivery. So any service you define is in the end delivered, and any service has a delivery time. Do you regularly check whether you are complete, whether you are actually doing what you are saying? and do you incorporate real world expectations? And although that sounds a bit vague, I think that if you want to make sure that your users perceiving your service delivery as well done, then you have to work with expectations that people in the real world would also have. So be aware what is happening outside your organization, and be aware that you want to be on par with your service delivery. Now the next bullet is about that same kind of comparison. If you deliver your services and they are based on the same kind of services in a commercial consumer market, are you trying to perform at least at the same way? And I know it's difficult sometimes if you compare email service like Gmail with the email service you have inside your company, then it might be that unlimited storage or the possibility to send anywhere or proper virus checking and so on is difficult to get on the same level or the same way because there are different expectations. But you can at least compare and see if you might need to improve. And the last bit, analyze what your users are requesting. Is your list up to date? And that's also a statement that can be explained with the service lifecycle management I've been targeting previously. And I don't want to spend too much time on this slide with it because I'm going to show you an example in the next slides. Because I'm going to show you a menu, and this is a very nice, typical, traditional British menu. It starts with breakfast, appetizers, some favorites, burgers, salad, and this is a very genuine menu. I'm not sure if the prices are accurate, and I'm not even sure if there are weird things on this menu, but let's say that this would be the list of services that you are delivering to your organization. How long have you been delivering this service to your organization? How long is this restaurant serving this list of items to their customers? And did they ever think about changing it? Are they selling everything with the right speed? And do they have the ability to deliver on time? If the cook changed, if there was a different cook previously, maybe things are now a bit different. So sometimes you have to evaluate if you're still doing the right thing. Maybe you have to take something off the menu to make sure that you can still perform. It is possible that what was now scraped from the menu was not a well-consumed service, or it was very well prepared and delivered, but it was not very much liked by the customers because appetite changed. It could also be that you need to add other features to your menu, replacing existing ones or just expanding the possibilities. You could say, I'm going to start my breakfast with a croquette. And it could be very modern, it could be something that you don't expect, but you have to evaluate the wish from your customer. Another possibility might be that you have to change the price or change the way you are actually delivering this. It could be the same thing, but with a different kind of delivery. And it could be that your existing service has changed because the price went up or down, the effort went up or down, and you have to re-evaluate. And it's something that is very, very often overlooked. Very often it is missed in a traditional IT setup or a traditional service setup. It is very, very much allowed to change what you are offering to your end users. So be aware of that and do it. Continuously evaluate. So moving from this menu, let's take a look at where it is prepared. How does your kitchen, what does your kitchen look like? Is it looking like this, a bit messy with all kind of ingredients everywhere in your preparation area, or did you neatly organize them and do you exactly know what amount of what stuff you really need? This is also very much influencing what you are putting on that menu. And this is also what you drive, what you put in your portfolio, what you are really offering to your customers. And as I've been saying previously, maybe the ingredients are the same, maybe the way to prepare is the same, maybe your menu did not change, but what if there are different cooks in the kitchen? What if you don't have that senior person anymore preparing your dishes, but there was a change in how this delivery is done. Or maybe one of these cooks is an external party that does not even directly speak your language and is only indirectly communicating with you. It could all have impact on how you are delivering your services. And be aware of that if you want to get them to the next level. Now, if we move on to the next slide, we see the picture of the ServiceNow portfolio, and I'm sure that you will miss some things, but this is the high-level overview I've been using in the basic presentation as well. And in that presentation, we targeted these 5 areas where we said, okay, catalog, configuration, a management database with the config process, incident management, change management. The possibility was to also add asset management in there. Let's do that first and then expand. Let's continue in the next possible ways. And that's what we try to address today. So I'm suggesting that you should take a look at that project portfolio, which could be project portfolio management. And what are you really offering? How are you offering it? Are you doing the right thing still? You take a look at all the things that you are doing now and make sure that you still do them right and make sure that you avoid risk and that you remediate those if they are present, those risks. Then number 8 is both covering problem and customer satisfaction, and they are connected because I think that for continual service improvement you need to evaluate what your customers think and you need to evaluate what your current problem areas are. And it sounds a bit harsh, evaluating customer satisfaction as a problem, but the process to evaluate what you want to change and make better is the problem management process. So that's why I feel they are very, very strongly connected. So that would be the step after that. And then orchestration, that's that automate possibility that I would like to suggest as a possible quick win. Of course, it depends on what you automate, but I think there are areas that you can automate very, very efficiently and very simple and could take a lot of load from your service desk and increase the perceivance of that service for your end users. And last but not least, take a look at reporting. And here it is marked as performance analytics, and I know it's not directly available for all customers, but you can pick this up and you can look at the current reporting and the way you use them to evaluate your current delivery. Now, and this is something that is similar to any kind of process or any kind of improvement cycle in any kind of situation I would connect it to. Manage your achievements and improvements by marketing your existing services and processes. Don't forget that what you have in place right now is also very valuable and important. Make sure that you remind your users how to do the normal things. Make sure you do activate a bit of marketing around what you do right now. Maybe use a newsletter, or I've seen companies where posters are hanging in elevators to indicate that the service desk is still there and they are still there to help you, so don't forget that instead of complaining or finding other routes to find service. And make sure that you are transparent in your service management setup. Share what you are doing, share where you want to improve. Now, this is the almost have to show picture for ServiceNow. We use a single system of record if we do all this in ServiceNow, and because of this we can share and collect information of all the different processes and digest it in the right way. If we do this, there will not be trouble integrating, there will not be trouble getting information out of a system, putting it in an Excel sheet and having to process it. No, you have direct access to it and you can use it right away. So it's important to keep that in mind. And keep it in the system as well. Don't be lured into any structure where people say, please send me this as an Excel sheet or something like that. No, share it in the platform so that if they want to drill down to ticket information, or if they want to find other information that you do not share in a report, they can do that right away without problem. So, yeah, closing remarks almost. Start with the basics, and you still have to do that. You still have to start with the basics and make sure that that works out real well. Keep up the good work with the same kind of energy, and pick up some or maybe all of the process areas that I've been showing you in this presentation, and make sure that you control and improve with small but relevant changes. So don't try to do it all at once. Don't try to do everything in one go, and don't try to do it with a big bang, because people will not be able to keep up. Share what you change and make sure that it works. If you change too much, you can also not see if there is a real effect. And then we find our ultimate goal, of course, working on service automation, working towards service relationship management, moving out of a help desk scenario and a simple IT service management area. We really want to make sure that any kind of service, any kind of service relationship is managed and shown and delivered via a ServiceNow setup. Okay, so that's what I wanted to share with you today. I hope you've enjoyed it. I think that there are some questions, so I'm going to look at Roelof because I can see him.
Yeah.
Roelof, do we have any questions?
We certainly have, and thank you very much for the useful presentation, Rick. We have at least 4 questions here.
Oh, nice.
I would like to encourage all the attendees to raise the questions using the Q&A box. So if you have any additional questions, please let us know. So first question, Rick, are there any extra costs involved if we switch on any of the modules like GRC orchestration or performance analytics you have discussed during the webinar?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a very good question. Well, I'm not a sales guy, and I'm not very well informed about commercial figures, but I do know that stuff like GRC is available out of the box, and you can use that right away. Regular reporting is available. You can use that. Surveys and assessments are there. Stuff like vendor performance is a plugin that you can switch on without any extra cost. And depending on the type of license you have, you might have to pay extra to be able and allowed to use the project portfolio management area. And I would almost say of course, but I'm not sure if you know, the performance analytics part is also a paid add-on to ServiceNow. So those are, I think, all the areas that I covered that have extra pricing or no extra pricing.
All right. Okay. In a situation that everything is done almost like manual tasks, what are the first things that you could automate? What's your advice on this?
Also a very nice one. Well, I already indicated that one of the interesting areas to automate is a password reset, which always sounds very simple, but in the end, finding your way to different systems and resetting passwords is difficult, because you also have to make sure that you are connecting to the right person, to connecting to the right tool, and delivering the password the right way, because of course we are not sending out an email with a plain password in it, and that should happen in a different kind of way. And yeah, I'm not sure if any of you has ever evaluated how many password resets are happening on your service desk, but I've seen situations where 1/3 or at least 25% of all the requests were for a password reset. So automating that, I think that's a great start. Other possibilities to automate are software delivery. If people ask for a certain software package to be installed, that could be automated and would help to improve delivery. Yeah, I think those are the 2 first examples that I can come up with. There could also be more complex scenarios where you automate, like onboarding, offboarding, HR changes, but those are a little more specific. So I hope to inspire you with those possibilities and examples already.
All right, thanks. Next one, your approach seemed to be very traditional and ITIL based. What about agile?
I've been using the word. I've put agile in the presentation because it is modern, and a lot of people are at least trying to use it. I think it's important to try to onboard the mindset of an agile approach I think you could also say that you need to create the proper iterations, that you do it step by step, that you evaluate while you go. Those things and those kinds of advice are, I believe, all agile. Agile, I think, is not doing everything in a Scrum kind of way. And the fact that I, at least in this presentation, definitely lean toward a traditional ITIL approach is that although it feels old-fashioned a little bit, and although I know that there are movements that say, okay, let's dump ITIL and move into an agile Scrum or Kanban kind of setup, I think that if you connect to a run and maintain into an operation style in your organization, you still need rule sets and guidelines. And at least for me and for a lot of people, ITIL is providing that, and I don't really see that if you just use agile, because that's a very energy-rich approach, but it doesn't do a lot more than indicating that you just make sure that you evaluate quickly, that you deliver quickly, that you make sure that you allow yourself to change your pace or way or goal while you go. And you can do that with the traditional ITIL mindset as a guideline. So I hope that answers the question.
Probably will. You talked about reporting or performance analytics. The question I have, what we see here is how can we see how this functionality works for us?
Okay, if I interpret the question right, you want to understand how performance analytics works. I would almost say let's do a 4-minute demo of that, but that's not possible, unfortunately. But there is a possibility, and you would have to ask your account representative or maybe the people helping you at this moment in your implementation or your delivery. There is a possibility to activate a performance analytics freemium, they call it, very nice word, plugin. And with that, you get an indication of the possibilities that performance analytics could deliver for you. There's a set of fixed KPIs then that you can see. You can see the dashboarding, and you will get a feel of what performance analytics is. And also be aware, and it's almost a commercial pitch. I don't want to make it sound too much like a commercial pitch, but in Geneva and in Helsinki, from what I learned and understand, it will be performance analytics will be very, very powerful, and it even looks good for a reporting engine. So at least try to get a demo or a freemium setup so that you can evaluate, because I think it provides a lot of value and it's worth the investment.
Yeah, on the freemium version, as you call it, you can't customize a lot of things, can you? No. You get a fixed set of KPIs that will allow you to report on a basic level. So there are only a few processes, there are a few fixed KPIs. There's not a lot of tweaking. Yeah. Final question. It's about surveys. Do customers like surveys?
Do customers like surveys? That's a tricky question.
You still need it to...
well, I think that a customer will like a survey if they get a feeling that something is really happening with the result of that survey. I mean, we all buy some stuff online and some stuff in old-fashioned traditional brick stores. And what is annoying me is that after each purchase on any kind of web shop, I will get an email asking to rate them or put a review in. And I find that annoying because it is just, me giving an opinion and then thank you, bye-bye. And what I've done is try to really let them know what I found wrong or not correct, and I never hear something about it. So I don't feel challenged. I don't feel the need to fill in those surveys. And I think it's because I don't get a feeling that something is really happening with those surveys. So I think a customer will like a survey if they know that you are doing something with that survey. And you would have to work out a way to do that. You would have to work out a way to find what you need to communicate back on a certain survey result from a customer. And I think you also need to make it a sort of a habit that people will let you know what is wrong. And maybe a survey is not the correct vehicle to ask how you are doing if you did not ask anything previously. But it's something that needs some understanding and momentum maybe. So making a long story short, do customers like surveys? I think that if you would just start to send out surveys, you will not directly get a lot of response. I think that if you trigger if you trigger your customer filling in a survey via a good indication of what you do with it, you will get traction, you will get response. So I hope that I always hope that the customer would get benefit from a survey as myself, and then I would be willing to fill in another one to indicate that things went better.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's stop here. Once again, I will send the link to the recorded version by the end of this week to all participants. Thank you very much for attending, and I would like to hand it over to you, Rick, for some closing remarks.
Yeah. So we opened with a level 0 a screenshot from a very nice old battleship game, and I hope that together we have now found tools and possibilities to move to the next stage. So from my side, I would like to congratulate you with finishing this presentation, and I hope that you are at this moment at least mentally loading the next stage to improve your service management. And I hope that you find a way to let me know if this helped. Thank you very much and have a great day.